Hello guys, today we are going to build the complete to-do list application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript with full functionality and full design just like this. So it works in that way. So if you add any to our name, once we click enter, it just adds it here, and this data will be saved in the local storage right here, application here as you see, and it has a description which is this information here, and the boolean value which is completed and it's currently false. If we check this check mark, it changes to true. So and the index, which is the index of this to do, since it's only one, this index is 0 for now. Let's add a couple of to-dos, like let's say to coding challenges, and this guy has index of 1, and this description false, and let's add another one. So the another functionality is once we click these 3 dots, we can edit this information like that, and if we check it, we can remove it from here, and also if we check a couple of them, and we can complete the checked ones like that. It works like that. So I think the project we are going to build is super clear. So let's get started with coding. Here I have basic HTML boilerplate. I just linked the JavaScript file and CSS file, which is here. Both of them are empty, and we are going to use Font Awesome's icons, and I'm going to use this link. I'm gonna leave this link in the description below, and for this website we are going to use this Font Awesome website, and this link is old link, so I'm gonna show you how to use it. So you need to click this one and choose the old version, this 5.15.4, and after that don't forget to check this free checkbox. And after that, the icons we need are this sync. First of all, you can just say sync, so you can go for whichever you want. I'm just gonna go for this guy. Let me build the boilerplate. So we need section. Inside section, I'm gonna open div, for which is going to be for this 2 guys, and let me copy this and put it inside h1. After that, we are going to take this guy and put it here. So that's all for our header. Let me give class of header. That's all for header part. We are done with this part. Is this now we need to build we need to add form section. Let me quickly add form. We don't need this action. So after that, we need the input field that we can add our to-dos with the type of text. We don't need any name and ID. We just need placeholder, which is add to your list. So after that, what we need is just button. You can put for type just button, not submit, and for that we have clear all completed, which are checked ones. So let's check our code on the browser. So we have the basic boilerplate. So let me just go here. Okay, it's something like that. Yep. So let me move it in this way so that we see what we are doing. So after that, here if we add some to do, as you see, to do is between this text and this button here. So we are going to open one div just here inside, and this is going to stay empty because we are going to add this to do dynamically in JavaScript. So this is going to stay empty, but we need to give it class name. I'm gonna go for the class name like to-dos container. Yeah, to-dos container. So after that we gave we are basically done with the HTML part, so we can just go to JavaScript, and first thing we have to do is get reference to all the elements that we interact with, which is this input field, sorry, which is this input field, and this divider, and this button. Let me get, so the first thing, let's take the section as well. Let's get reference. Oh, sorry, I have to go to JavaScript. Let me get reference to section as well, so that at some point we might need it. Pre-selector, I'm gonna go for just section, since we only have one section in the whole website. After that, for the next one, I'm gonna give text input, and this is going to be just input, and the last one is going to be that divider, which is this guy. Let me copy this and paste it here, and don't forget to add this little dot. And for this one, I'm gonna give to do's main container class name variable. Let's get the reference to button as well, just here. So we can give name like, let's say clear all btn equal to document pre-selector. Button is also the only thing in the page, so I'm just gonna say button. So we are done with the with the reference part. We can just say, to make our code clean, we can say all references to HTML. So after that, the second thing we have to do is to create our class template. I'm gonna call it my object, and we are gonna initialize constructor, and constructor is gonna have description, which is the to-do name we are gonna write, then completed, this is gonna be boolean, true or false, and the last thing is index. So after that, we are going to initialize them. Description is equal to description, dot completed is equal to completed, and the lastly index is equal to index. Okay, we are done with this object as well, so we can say here template class object to make our code clean. The next thing we have to do is, of course, add the to do once we add here, but just before that, let me initialize one empty array, so that every object is gonna go inside this array, and this array is gonna go to local storage at the end of the day. So after that, let me let's work with functions. So I'm gonna say const, let's initialize function and call it add to do, which is going to add our to do. So for this function, we are going to get reference to to do container. We are going not to get reference, but we are going to create to do container, which means that for every separate to do, we are going to get this div container. Now we are going to create that div container. So after that, we have to give it class name. So to do container dot class, not list, class name is equal to, I'm just gonna go for the same name, which is to do container. So after that, that container will get the information, which is this checkbox, this text, and this icons. So I'm just gonna go for to do container inner HTML, or a typo, inner HTML plus equal, and I'm gonna use template string, so it's gonna save some of our space. So input type is gonna be checkbox, and let's give it class name in case we might use it. So for class, I'm gonna go for the same name, checkbox. So after we have checkbox, what we do is a span, of course, which will contain this text here. So for that span, since we are working with function, let's just give one parameter here, so that when we are adding some to do, that text is gonna come from this text input field, which is this text input, so let's just use that here with this. It's gonna come from here, so we are gonna use parameter and put that to do value parameter. So after that, we need this icon just after this span. So let me go to here and write dot. Hopefully we are going to get what we need. Okay, this one. So let me get this and put it here. Okay, we need to take the second icon, this one as well. So let me write trash. Yep, this exact icon. So let's put it. So the next thing we have to do is make this trash icon disappear, because this is a default view, and the only thing that's appearing is this icon, which is 3 dots. But this icon is not appearing. It's only gonna appear once we click this. So this is this icon's default behavior should be display none. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it here and give it display none, so that it's not gonna show. After that, what we have to do is we are basically done with this inner HTML part. So the last thing we have to do is just adding this container to this to-dos container, which is this empty div. Don't forget this part, otherwise the whole code is not gonna work. So in this case, it's this guy. Let me copy this, paste it here. Dot, we are gonna use append child, and inside append child we are gonna add this to-do container, which contains this HTML. So to-do container. Hopefully once we call this function, it's gonna work. So but we didn't call this function, so this is not gonna work. Let's try. So it's not gonna work because we didn't call this function yet. But the question is where we are going to call this function. Let's think about it. So once we enter this data here, once we click enter, this function should be called. So we need to add event listener to this input field, which is in our case is this input, this text input. So let's do that. So we are going to add event listener to text input. So let me just write it out real quick. Add event listener. The event listener type is going to be key press, and if you are going to take an event, you might go for like this, but it's actually not needed. So I'm just gonna go for this one. So here we have to put a little if check, otherwise this key press means all of the keyboard keys on your keyboard. So we need to check whether the enter is being clicked. So what we have to do is check e.key. If it's equal to enter, then we are going to call this function inside this logic. So if it's equal to enter, and let's just add a little another check, which is if the user is not gonna enter any input, this logic is not gonna work. In that case, we can just say text input dot value is equal to true. You might go for like that, but this is not a good way. So if you just write dot value like that, this is gonna initialize, this is gonna evaluate to true. So you can just put like that. You don't need to do like triple equal true. So after that, what we have to do is we can call that function here, which is this add to do. And if you remember, we have this add to do parameter, which is this value. So this value is going to come from this text input, which we write here, right here. So we are going to give this parameter here, and that parameter is going to be this text inputs value, which we write here. So let me just write text input dot value. So hopefully now it should work. So let me check it real quick. So if we try to add something, as you see, it just added for a real quick and just removed it. The reason is that we have to it's once it's added, it's just reloading the page, so the data is being removed. So just to see our result, we can add e.prevent default. So once we add something, it's not gonna reload the page. Now hopefully if we add something, it's gonna show here. But the thing is, this input field should be cleared once we added something. So for that reason, we can say after we added, we can just clear the text input field. Text input dot value is equal to null, so that it clears after we added something. So 1 2 3, then it's this input field is clear. So we are basically done with adding functionality. So the next thing we have to do is working with this little checkbox. Let's start working from order by order or something like that. So let's start working order by order. So we are going to give functionality to this checkbox, which means that once we click this its parent, this div container should have a background color of this, and this trash icon should appear, and this guy should disappear, and this text should have this line through. Okay, so it should toggle it. So let's add that inside here. So we can get reference. First thing we have to do is to get reference all of these checkboxes, these checkbox classes, because in case we have more than one to do, we have to loop through inside all of them. So I'm gonna say checkbox is equal to document query selector all, and all of the checkboxes, which is the class name of this checkbox. I'm putting it here. So after that, it's the result of this checkbox is going to evaluate the node list. So we have to loop through inside it is for each. So now we can add event listener to this I. We are going to add event listener to this I. Of course, it's gonna be click event. So let's just make it a little check, so that whether our checkbox are working, this event is working. So let's say checkbox is clicked once we click it. So let's give it a try. 1 2 3, we add it, and let's open the console. Let's open the console and checkbox. So checkbox is clicked, so it's working. So far so good. Let's keep moving. Instead of doing this, we have to do some functionality. So here I means that this input field. So the first thing we have to do is take this ice container, which means that this container and this container is gonna be parent for this I. So we can target its parent element using parent element method like that, and we're gonna add class list dot toggle. Every time we click, we are gonna toggle with some CSS rule. So we are gonna just say checked container. We're gonna just go for this checked container, and this checked container is gonna have some styling here, which means that it should have the background color, which is this background color. Every time we toggle, this background color will toggle, which is this class name. So let me get that color using this color menu program. I'm gonna turn everything to lowercase. So in this case, let me change it to this. So hopefully now our to-do list background should change once we click it. So as you see, it's changing. Let's check again. Yep, it's working as perfectly fine. So let's go back to here, and we have to do a couple of stuff. So once we click, this background is changing. Now it's time to change the to do, which is this one, to add this line through. So let me come here. So I'm going to use this kind of a method so that you will learn something new. So in this time we are going to use I.next element sibling. So this I is this one, so we are going to target by this. I'm targeting this span text, which is this one. So dot class list is gonna toggle. Let's do check to do. I think this is very fine. So for this class list, we are just going to go here, and we are going to add the text decoration line through. Hopefully it should work. Let's say do coding challenge. So once we click this, this guy should have a line through. Okay, I think we targeted something wrong. Oh, okay, probably I made mistake. I just removed this extra semicolon. Do coding challenge. Okay, this guy is taking it, so I think I targeted the wrong one. Let me see. So why is that happening? So this is the checkbox. Check to do. Let's refresh the page, and let's try to add something like do coding challenge. Enter. Okay, let's try to see what's going on here. So this I is going to be so let's see. Oh, okay, I think the problem is here. When I was typing, I forgot to close this input, so it was taking this guy as next element sibling. Let me close this. Yep, it's working perfectly fine. I just left it like that, and I just closed it. The problem was coming from that part. So let's let's move on, the next thing we have to do is, let me close this one. So the next thing we have to do is make this guy disappear and make this guy appear. So let's let's work with something, some new stuff instead of going for something we already know. So we are going to target its parent element, and which is this container, and from that parent element we can target its last child, which is this trash icon. We can say last element child, which is going to be this one. So for that guy we are gonna toggle its class list to something makes it appear, because if you remember, we make this guy's default disappear here. It's this display none. So let's add like trash active, maybe trash active, and for this one we are going to come here, and here we have to say display block. So after that, so let's check it whether it's working. So let's say Mary, click. Once we click, this guy is appearing. So far so good. So the last thing is to make that 3 dots disappear. So in this time also we are going to target parent element, and from that parent element we are gonna target last element child, which is the same trash icon, and from that trash icon we can do something like previous element sibling from this one, which targets just previous sibling, which is this one, which is that 3 dots. So for that one we are gonna toggle its class list to something that says that makes it disappear. So we can give it class name like edit disable, right? Because that's edit icon. So I'm just gonna come here, and for that one we are gonna say display none, because that guy should disappear. So hopefully we are done with the checkbox, but let's give it a try. Do some coding challenges, and once we click, the functionality is working as perfectly fine. Let's check that from here. Yep. So we are done with this checkbox. So the next thing we have to do is to send this data to local storage. Once we add it, this data should be sent to local storage, right? So I'm gonna move a little bit down inside here. So I'm gonna open object. Every time we add something, these functionalities will be done. So as well as this object will be created, and this object is gonna is gonna be created from this template. So new, which is my object, and inside here we need to give description, completed, and its index, whether true or false for this one, and for this one it's index. So for that part we are gonna give the value, which is to do value, which is this guy. You remember this is coming as a parameter from here, from this text input here. So we can use this parameter here. So we use to do value for description, and it's gonna be, it's complete, it will always be false as default. And for index we can use this checkbox dot length so that it's gonna keep track of this length. So let me show you. Once we add something, this checkbox is gonna be 1, so that its length is gonna be 1, and this guy's length, this guy's index is gonna be 1. But if you want, you can just say -1, so that this guy's index will start from 0. So let's So we created the object, but we didn't do anything with this object. If you remember, we created this array, and we have to push this object inside this array and send this array to local storage. Let's do that. My array dot push object. So we pushed the object inside that array. Now it's time to finally send that data to local storage. I'm gonna send data to as a key, which is list. I'm gonna just name it a list. So the next thing is we have to convert our data to JSON format. We are going to stringify this my array and send it to local storage. So my array. That's all. That's all for add functionality. So let's open the local storage. Let me open it like that. Let me size it. So let's try to see. As you see, it's empty for now. This list has been created, which is the name this one, and it's empty for now. So let me try to add something. Let's say take a quiz. Once we enter, as you see, it has been added here. This is the array, that's my array, and this is the object that we just created, and it has this take a quiz, which is this one, and it has completed false and index of 0. If we add another thing, let's say do some chores, this guy is gonna have an index of 1, and do some chores and etc. So let me just close this. As you see, the local storage part is done. We are basically done with checkbox and sending data to local storage. And the next thing we have to do is, as I said, order by order, to add some functionality to this 3 dots. So I'm just gonna move on just after this. So we are going to get reference to all of these icons. In case we have a couple of to-dos, and these dots are going to be a lot of icons. So in that case, it's not going to be only one. So we are going to use query selector all. So let me give name edit icons, argument query selector all, and there we have to target this part. So let me get that class. So we got that class. Now it's, since it's a node list, we are going to use for each to get reference for all of them. So for every of them, we are gonna add click event. So for every guy we just added the click event. Now we have to, what we have to do is we have to implement some stuff here, some function. Once we click this guy, let me show you. Once we click this guy, this background should change, and also this should be editable, which means that this ordinary text should change to input field, and we should be able to change the data, and once we enter that, data should be saved and change back to this kind of style. So we can write the code here, but as you write a lot of code inside one function, it starts to look a bit messy. So we are just going to write function and just call that function here. So I'm gonna call that function edit to do, and just call that function. So don't worry, outside we are going to write that edit to do function. Let me just write that edit to do function real quick. So for that edit to do, as I explained, we have to write a lot of logic. So let me write edit to do is equal to is equal to this. So inside here, what the first thing we have to do is to create input field, because once we click, this is the input field and this is not ordinary span text anymore. So we have to create that input field. So I'm gonna call that edit input, since we are going to edit that input field. Document create element of input, obviously. So after that, we have to give that edit input the type of text. If you want, you can give placeholder or whatever you want. So let's give it class name as well, so that we can add some style or play around with its style. So for that class name, I'm just gonna go for edit input, which is the same, so that you don't get confused. So after that, this we can put let me quickly show you something. So once we click here, as you see, this data is this input field is not empty, but it's taking that value which that span text has. As you see, it's not empty, but it has that previous value. So we have to fill that part just like that. So for that, we just take this value and put it inside this input field, which is in our case is edit input field. So we are gonna say super simple thing, edit input dot value is going to equal to what? We don't have anything here and we can't get access to this span text from here, because this is inside function. So what we have to do is we have to what we have to do is to take it as a parameter from here. So we can take it as a parameter from here. So now what we do is dot text content. So that's all for filling this part. So the next thing we have to do is replace let's say replace this span with this input field, because this is not a span text anymore. So what we do is we have to use a method called replace child, but to use that method we have to target these input fields parent element, which is this to do container, which is this to do container, and it has class of this, and the same thing evaluates to this one as well. We can't have access to that guy from here, because this is being done inside function, as you see, and this is another function, so we can get that guy as well as a parameter. So what we have to do is just name the same thing to do container, so something like that. So this is gonna be container and this is gonna be that to do, which means this container is this whole container and this to do is this text, sorry, this text, not this input field. So what we have to do is we say to do container dot inside this container we are gonna replace its child, that edit input. The first thing will be the new node that you want to change with. The second thing is gonna be old node that you want to make it disappear. So for old node it's gonna be of course to do as you also assumed. So after that we change its place. We replace the span with input field so that we can edit. After that what we have to do is add event listener for this input, because once we change something and once we click enter, this should listen to key press event, which is enter in our case, and add it, update the local storage and update the UI. So now what we have to do is add functionality to this input, which is going to be key press, and we are going to put if else to check whether the key press is equal to enter. If it's enter, then we are going to write some function here. So after that, what we have to do is to select all of the containers from here. So const, I'm gonna say to do containers, since it's gonna return node list dot query selector all of the to do container, which is this class name. Let me quickly show you this class name. To do container, we are going to get, we are targeting all of the to do containers and naming as to do containers, and after that we are going to get the data from the local storage. So I'm gonna say local data to make it descriptive and short as well. So JSON parse, let me do this part real quick since this part is gonna be clear for you. So we got the data as local data. So the second thing is we need to loop through inside these containers, which are these guys, these dividers. So let's write simple loop. So to do containers dot length super simple part. Inside this, I think I made a mistake at some point. Okay, sorry, I put this thing here. So inside this logic, we are going to find which one. Let's say let me add a couple of to-dos. So once we click this stuff, the first thing we are doing is the looping through all of the containers. First this one, and this one, and this one, and find which one has been clicked. In our case, how can you find which one is clicked? We can define that by sorry, by seeing this, by trying to find this background color which has this class name. If you remember this class name, we can try to find this class name inside these to-dos containers. If any to-do container has this class name, then this means that's the one that's clicked, because every time we click, it's gonna change to this class name. So what we are going to do is we put if check here, and inside to-dos container dot I, we are going to try to find the class name which has this checked. Let me make sure so that we don't get confused. Okay, it's checked container, which is this styling. So we try to find that one, which will be this container. So when we find that, let me do this. When we find that, we have to do a couple of stuff here. So when we find that, we are going to make some changes to local storage, which we just got data from, that from here. From local storage, for that separate index, we find which one is being clicked. So for that index, we are going to change its value with the one that we just edited. Let's say once we click here, and let's say I edited it to Mary, and once we click, it's gonna loop through here and find this background color and take this data, and for this separate index, it's gonna change the local storages, this index data with this one, like that. So for that part, we are going to say dot description. That's the description is equal to edit input dot value, which we will write here. So I hope that makes clear sense. So let me try to write a local storage and send our data back with the updated data. Stringify, we have to stringify local data that we just change it. That's all for now. Hopefully once we edit something, this code should be called, but it's gonna implement this function in the local storage. But there is one problem. Once we enter, as you see, that background color disappeared, and all the styling has changed to its initial value. So we have to do that as well. So that's the thing that's going to be implemented outside for loop. So let me go outside for loop here. Okay, here we are going to take edit input dot parent element, which is this container. Let me show you, because this container has this background color, we have to put it back to this separate one. So we are gonna say is parent element dot class list dot remove this class which has that styling, which is this checked container. So we are gonna remove that checked container class name, checked container class name, and we have to replace it back with once we click enter, we have to replace it back with this span again. Let me copy that part from here. So we have to make a little change here. Now we have to change it back. So we replace this to do with this. Now we put to do and make it disappear this edit input field. So the last thing is to do dot text content is gonna be equal to the one that we just updated, which is like that. So let's give it a try. Hopefully it's gonna work. Once we edit something, let's say something, enter, and click. Okay, let's give it a try. 1 2 3. Okay, I think there's something is happening here. Probably I typed fast and missed something. Let's see the problem. Can't read properties of undefined line 40. So it's saying edit input. Oh, okay. Yeah. Then of course, sorry that we didn't give this guy. We called this edit to do function here, but we didn't give value for this two parameters here. For this guy, we have to give the parameter, which is this to do container, which is this. Let me find that, which is this to do, which is gonna be this to do container. So let me type that to do container, and after that for the next one we have to give this span text, which is going to be let me quickly see that its name. The second thing is gonna be is going to be I dot previous element sibling, of course, because this I this is going to be I in our case, which is this edit icon, this ellipsis, and we are going to target as this one by saying I dot previous element sibling. I dot previous element sibling. Yep, now it's gonna work. I just forgot to give those guys. Let's say something, enter, click it. As you see, it changes to input value and puts this something back here. So if we say like, let's say anything and click enter, it has been updated here. Let's check that whether it has been updated in the local storage as well. So as you see, it hasn't been updated in the local storage. It hasn't been updated in the local storage because we didn't add any functionality here yet, but we just updated it on the UI. So let me clear this. So we are done with the edit functionality as well. So now the second thing we have to do is we just wrote the edit to do function, and we are done with edit icons. Let me go to that part. Yep, edit icons. The next thing is we have to deal with, lastly, we have to deal with that remove icon. So let me write just after this one. We're gonna say remove icons is equal to, we have to get all of them. In our case, it should be this trash icon. Where the hell is that? So trash icon, and since it's nodeless, we again gonna loop through inside them. Dot for each I is equal to I dot add event listener. Click, we added event listener to all of them, and just like we did in the edit to do functionality here, instead of writing the code directly here, we wrote the function here and called that function to make our code much more clean and more readable. So we can repeat the same thing here as well. So I'm gonna write the function called remove to do, and inside here we don't give anything for now. Let's write this function right here, which is gonna be remove to do. Remove to do is going to be, so remove to do. So what we have to do is to get the main big container, which is this empty container, which is to-dos container. Let's see that this to-dos container, which is this one, and from this main container we are gonna find the, let me come here, we are gonna find the one which is being clicked, and we just remove that whole divider. So we are gonna say dot remove child, which child we will remove. We don't have access to the child which is being clicked here, so we have to take it as a parameter here as again, and we pass it from in here, that parameter. So what we do is just say to do, don't forget to say to do here. So for this to do, we are going to pass this ice parent element, which is going to be to do container. Let me quickly, yep, I dot parent element. So I here is this trash icon, so I dot parent element means this whole divider, which is containing everything here, which contains this whole one to do, not all of them, but this separate to do. So once we click, it's gonna find inside this whole divider, it's gonna find this one which is being clicked and just remove that child from here. So let me go back. I dot parent element. That's going to be I dot parent element. So we gave it here. So the next thing we have to do, let me come here. So the next thing we have to do in the function is we are going to initialize count, which is going to be 0, and we have to update the local storage with the removed with updated data. So once we remove it from here, it should be removed in the local storage as well. So let me get the data from local storage first. I'm gonna say local data JSON parse. Let me quickly do this part. Get item from the list from the local data, and I'm gonna initialize another one, and since this is going to be node list, not node list but some type of object this is going to be, so I'm gonna convert it to array so I can use some array methods. Array from local data, and right here after turning it into array, I'm gonna filter it. And take the ones which are not completed, which means that which are the false ones. Let me show you from here. So once we click this one, and once we click it, this is gonna turn into true, right? The completed one. So once we click this one, it's gonna take the it's gonna check the local storage and check compare the local storage data with here, and only take the ones which doesn't have the completed property, which evaluates to true. It's not gonna take true ones. It's only take this one which is false, this one which is false, and this one, and send back to local storage. We are gonna update the local storage in that way. So we are going to say I.completed. I.completed is not equal, sorry, it should be equal to false. We are going to filter the ones that's false, and after we filter the ones that hasn't been clicked, we have to update their index accordingly. Let's say here this guy has a 0, 1, 2, 3. Once we click here, all of them should all of their index should be updated. This one should be 0, and since this one has been removed, now this one should be 1, and this one should be 2. So what we do is we will map through our data, and for all of our data we are gonna say I.index is equal to count plus equal 1. We just update all of their indexes with this count data, so all of them will have 0, 1, 2, and etc. We are gonna update it in that way. So after we update it, the last thing we have to do is send our data to local storage. Local storage, set item to list. Okay, let's convert to JSON our data. That's all for the remove functionality. So once we remove it, the data should remove from the local storage. So let me clear this real quick. So let's say Mary, let me make it like that, Mary and Harry. So we have Mary and Harry. Once we click and remove, once we click, wow, okay, I think I need to remove this event.prevent default from here because we don't need it anymore. from this text input event listener key press. So let me move this. Okay, we have to get the data from the local storage. We forgot that part. So let's keep moving, and we'll see the rest. So after that, as I said, now it's time to take our data from the local storage and show it on the page. So we are going to write function for that, which is gonna be get from local. Let's say you can say get data from local, but I just go for get from local. So here we going to get data from local storage. First thing, as always, JSON, we are gonna convert to object local storage get item, which is a list. So after that, we are gonna map through inside as is the data and show all of this. This I means the separate objects, separate to do objects. So let's push this data inside my array so that we keep track of changes always. So now we have to repeat the same process where we did this part. So we are going to create to do container, and after that we are gonna repeat the same thing. So let me just copy paste from here real quick so that we don't waste time. So now we repeated the same stuff here as well, but this time we don't have access to do value, but we have access to this I, which comes from local storage. So now in this time it's gonna be I.description. So that's the only thing that we change here. So we change here. After that, we have to implement those edit icons functionality, checkbox functionality, and remove icons functionality. Here you have to repeat those guys here as well. So let me quickly copy paste again from there. Where was that? Just a minute. Yeah, so this is the checkbox. Let me make a little double check. Yep, let me get this checkbox stuff from here, and we are going to repeat this same process. Just we have to repeat this process outside the map. Don't forget that this is very important. Just a minute. Yeah, actually we have to do this outside. Okay, let me just quickly do this outside this guy, which means here. So I just put it here. So don't this time we are going, after that we are going to take the remove icons functionality, which is this one. Oh, sorry, I forgot edit icons. I got the check box now. So I have to take, let me first take the edit icon since it's gonna be inside this one. I felt like something is missing, so I just I just saw that. So we are going to copy this edit icons functionality from here. Yep. So this is going to go just after, let me make sure, that, yep, just after this guy, just here. Let's, okay, let me check everything. Fine. Yep, it should look like that. I felt like something is missing and I just found that this thing is missing. So we put these edit icons here, so we have the functionality when, even if we refresh the page. So after that, the second thing we have to do is get the checkbox. Now it's time to get the checkbox. I got this checkbox stuff very early. That's why I was feeling a bit uncomfortable. So we are going to put it just after this guy, which means outside this map. So just like that. So after that checkbox, we are going to get remove icons. Okay, this part here, we are going to get this one and just paste it just after checkboxes. Yep, just like that. So now what we do is, let me make sure I'm going correctly. So after remove icons functionality, we are just going to send everything to local storage just here. Dot set item list is going to be JSON, and inside here we are going to stringify our data, and we are going to send the data, which is this array we just pushed. Everything is gonna be synchronized by array. So we send back data to local storage. That's all for taking data from local storage, but it's not gonna work now because we didn't call this function yet. So we have to add a window, dot load event to window. Every time it's gonna reload, this function is gonna call, actually I don't need this part, I'm just gonna call this get from local this function. Now it's gonna work. As you see, it just appear this data from here. So the next thing we have to do is update write function to update the local storage with the let's say you might change this data from here or remove it. So at that time you have to update the local storage like in live mode, let's say like that. So let's write function for that as well. So we are gonna say update local, you can say local storage or whatever you want. So here what we do is, as always, we have to get data from local storage, JSON parse local storage get item from list. We got the data from the local storage. Now it's time to get the get reference to all of these to-dos, which is going to be the separate texts, these text guys. So let me move it back. So for that we're gonna say selector all of these spans. In our case it's span. So after we got reference to all of them, we are gonna loop through inside this to-dos, sorry, to-dos dot links, and we are going to loop through. We just loop through, and inside it we are gonna check the ones check the ones. Let's check to-dos dot I dot class list. If it contains the class name which is checked, actually it's check to do, yeah. So we are going to find the one that has been clicked. Let's say we are going to update the local storage like that. Let me just show you so that you understand the application. So in this case, so what we are doing now is once we click something, as you see, it just changed it to true, and if I click again, it just changed it to false. And once we click, and if we change the data to Gaga and enter, it just changed it on like looks like live mode. That's what we are doing now. So so now let me close this real quick. Sorry for that. So after that, what we are going to do is we check which which span text has this check to do, which means that which text has that line through. We are gonna find that one, which one which has been clicked, and we are gonna update the local storage accordingly. I.completed is going to be true. If this checkbox is clicked, it's gonna check this false to true. If it's gonna click again, then we are going to change it back to obviously false. This stuff is gonna help us to to clear the ones that has been clicked with this button at the end of the day. So we just did this functionality. We are done with this part, so we just go outside loop, and we have to send our data back to local storage with updated data. Stringify, we are going to send the data that is a local data. This one we just updated. So that's all for update local functionality. So don't forget to call this function in the line where we check this checkbox, because as you see, once we check this box, it's going to evaluate to true and false. So we have to call that function inside the checkbox. So let me copy this, and we have to call that function here. Once we check any checkbox, this function is going to be called. Hopefully that's all, but don't forget to put this guy here as well, because because we repeated one thing twice. Yep, like that. Update local storage is gonna be called here as well. So let's move and add functionality to to the sorry, to that last thing, which is clear button. But before that, let's make a little recap. So let's check whether everything is working perfectly. So let me try to add Sam. Okay, click. As you see, once I click, it changed it to true. If I click again, it's gonna change to false. So let's try to edit something. So inside Sam, we say test So test, so it didn't change to test. We are going to implement that part a bit later. I think I forgot at some point this part, so don't worry for that part. We are going to implement it just after implementing this clear function. So let me implement clear all functionality. So in this part again, we are gonna take data from local storage. We got the data from the local storage. Now next thing is to loop through all the containers, which is the separate containers. We are going to say to do container document pre-selector all of them, and they have a class of to do container. After that, what we have to do is to loop through as always. So and we have to put a little if check here. We check if .i.class list is gonna contains that contains that checked container. This means that, let me show you from here. So this is checked container class, and I don't know why this is happening. Okay, so once we click these guys, every time we click this clear button, it's just gonna loop through for these div containers and try to find the ones that has this background color. So if it finds these ones, which means these checked ones, it's gonna clear all of them and send only these guys to local storage. That's what we are doing now. So we are going to find the ones that this class name has, and once we find them, we are just going to call that function we wrote before to remove our dividers. But if you remember, for this remove to do, we have to give the parameter. We have to give pass value as a parameter here, which is going to be the one that we want to remove. In our case, this is the one that we want to remove, that has this background of color, and it's this I. So we are just going to pass this I as a parameter. So after that, we have to update the local storage as always with new indexification and all of that. So let's say data is equal to, we have to turn it to array that sorry, that the local data which we just got, and after that we are gonna of course filter it, not fill but filter it, and we are going to filter it and find the ones that's equal to false and send the only ones that evaluates to false. And also don't forget to update the indexification of all of them. So I.index is going to be equal to count plus equal 1. So after that we have to change, we have to send them back to local storage. Stringify, of course, data. That's all for clear all functionality. Now we just call that function. I think we got reference to this clear button. Once we click this button, which is this clear all completed button, we are going to implement this clear all function. So I'm just gonna say clear all btn dot event listener. Once it's clicked, just call this clear all functionality. That's all, hopefully. So let's try to do everything from scratch. Let's add 1, 2, and 3. So if we check, let's put it check, it's going to evaluate true and false. Let's check a couple of them, 1 and 3. And once we click, the ones has been removed from here and here as well. So if we check it, only this is gonna come back. Hopefully and that's all functionality that we have to implement. Now it's time to add some design, and I don't think it's gonna take long. Okay, I think let's go back to this part. Okay, I think this we here, let me do this. So here in this if condition, we are saying once we click here, try to find the one that has background color of this, but this background color is not being applied. I think we forgot to do that, so let's do that, and this function is going to be implemented automatically. So once we click that, it's not edit to do, but actually edit icons, because once we click, this background color change. So every time we click here, we have to take this this edit icons parent element, which is here. So we just say i.parent element dot add. We can just say add, oh sorry, class list is gonna be add the class list that says checked container. Yep. So if we click, okay, I think we forgot something. So in this case, I is edit icons. So i.element class list add checked container. Let me quickly get that from here. This one. Let's do some debugging. So let's try to paste debugging. Oh, okay. We just tried to add this one here, which is in the first add part, but we didn't try to repeat this same process when the page reloads. I forgot to add it here. Yeah, I just added it here. That's all. And this is the part that we were repeating two functions in two cases. In get from local, inside here I just added this part. So let's give it a try. Yep, now that this part is also gonna work. So if you try to change some data, as you see, it has been changed. Let's change it to Mary. It's gonna change to Mary. And that's all for full functionality. Let's try to add some couple of stuff here. Yep, everything is working as you say. See, completed. Congratulations, and we are done with the full functionality. Now it's time to work with the with this design actually. So the design part is so we can forget about JavaScript now. Let's try to do some cool stuff. So this is the section in our case. So we can give body. Let's go to HTML first and organize how we are gonna do it. So this is how we can do some stuff. So we can give a body display flex and justify content center, so that this section, in our case this whole stuff, is gonna move here. So let's do that. For section, we're gonna give, sorry, for body. First, I forgot to do some basic stuff. Margin box, I think border box. So now we can say body display flex and justify content center, so that this is gonna go to center like that. So now what we can do is, as you see, there's a little bit of a padding top, but if you want, you can't add that. For this separate section, we have to give this box shadow. I'm just gonna get from here. I always get box shadow from in this way. So let me get box shadow from this guy. So for this section, we are gonna give this box shadow. Okay. Yep, as you see, there's a little bit box shadow. So now we can add padding top for this one. The top, we only need like maybe 20 pixels, something like that. So after that, what we do is give padding to this section. For top, we have something like 25, and for bottom, I don't think we need for bottom. We just need this stuff here. Yep, something like that. So now what we do is we have to give display flex for this section, which is this header. For header, we're going to give display flex and justify content space between, and we have padding left, top and bottom. I guess we don't have, but the left and right we have something like 15. Left and right 15, top and bottom 0. Yep, something like that. I have to say line from center line correctly. Okay, so now what we can do is we have to give separate widths for this whole section. We can say width, maybe something like that. Yep, as you see, it started to look a little bit nice. So for this, now it's time to work with these guys. So everything should have the width of 100%. So for this guy, which this input, so this input is going to take 100%. So we can just say input with 100%. Yep, like that. We don't need border none, outline none. Outline is something once you click it doesn't show the border, so if you click here it shows this border. If you put outline none, it's not gonna show even if you click. So we are going to give this guy as well padding left, like maybe 20 pixels. Exactly. So after that, what we do is give padding bottom for this whole section, which is header. So for top and bottom, probably you're gonna be 10 pixels. More 20. That for this input field, we are gonna increase its font size. So I think it's too much. Good. So it's, as you see, its style is font style is italic. Font style italic. Yep. Also, so basically we are done with this part. Now it's time to work with this div, guys, which is to do container class, if you remember. So let me do container. If this guy is only gonna have border top and bottom. Border top gonna be 1 pixel solid black, and border bottom 1 pixel solid black. As you see, it has this thing here. I don't know why your border has changed to container. Okay, no problem. We are gonna okay, we have to give this to do container display flex. Yep. So display flex, and then we are gonna change it later. So for now, let me get this cool color with the help of this color. So both of them is gonna hit. Yep. Now they have this padding top and bottom the same, left and right. Left and right, I think something like 15. For top and bottom, it has something like 40. Padding top and bottom. Let's give I think this is a guess. So after that, do let's see. So after that, we are going to give some styling. So as you see, everything is working fine. So for this guy, so the button is going to take up the whole space. So let's check the button. Okay, we only have one button, so we can say a button width is gonna have 100%. Yep. So we just check some quick. We don't order. Yep. So background color is gonna be like that. I think background color is just white. Yep. So this guy also has padding. So let's say text. Okay, I think text line is already center. So we just need padding top and bottom, 30 pixel and left and right. Yep. That be 25 and on in pixel. Yep. So we are going to use this same color for this guy as well. Change this one. Yep. I think it's too much. That's okay. So we have to add hover, cursor, pointer. Yep. So the only thing that's remaining is, okay, for this guy, as you see, we for text. So padding, padding, only need padding bottom, like 8 pixels maybe. Oh, okay, not 8. Get, yeah. Okay, so this sync F8 alt, you have to make it a little bit bigger than in pixels. If you want, you can get 20. So that's, I think that's it. The only thing that's remaining is to move these guys accordingly. So let me try to do like define content, flex start. Okay, so I don't think it will work for this checkbox. We are going to give dot checkbox class. We are give width of 10%. Yeah, that's what we need. So now these two guys should move. This both of them. To take both of them, we can use FAS because this FAS is as in both of them. So what we can say is justify self flex and yeah, but we can go for float if this is not gonna work, or float. Okay, problem. Won't use another thing in that case. Okay, so I think let me clear all of these guys because looks like this guy has this border top. Oh, I have this color. Can just border I need border top of pixel solid, then if there's nothing to show. Yep, exactly, this is the one we just built. This is, yeah, it looks same except for this spacing, but problem, we can just increase these headers bottom up. Yep, okay, like that. So now it's time to move this guy to the left. So, but that's, let me go to do container. Let me to align item center so that they will be aligned correctly in one place. So now it's time to move these. I think we have to make a little changes here because so I think we have to take these two guys in one in one in one container, but in that case remember that we have to make changes in this part as well because we did some stuff in there. Wow. So now what we say is i.parent. So let's try to check. This is check to do container. Okay, so now let me just remove this because it's gonna mess everything. So this this functionality we are going to move. Let me just remove some stuff from here that to justify content. From here I'm gonna move it. Yep. Oh. My content now that align self should work. Justify self flex. No one. So in this case what we can do is just to increase this guy's width. That's say span x1 takes all the remaining space. Span space. So for this, I'm gonna give hover cursor for this. Let's do font size of 18 pixels maybe. Span so increase. Hopefully that's all for the to-do list functionality. As you see, the functionality is working perfectly fine for this fonts. I got them from Google Fonts, and you can use them if you want. This is optional, so I don't implement that. I use it the Poppins. If you like this font family, it's Poppins. You can get it from Google Fonts, and as you see, everything is working perfectly fine. So the last thing that's remaining is just edit input. We are going to take this edit input class. Let me try to see it. Edit input, we didn't do anything here. So edit input, we can say background color of the same color as this guy. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's all we can that's all for. Let me do this for to do container. Just do container. Okay, and that's all actually. I hope you enjoyed the video. So as you see, everything is working perfectly fine. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, just hit the subscribe button to not miss the other videos, and if you like it, leave the comment in the comment section, and don't forget to hit the like button. See you guys in the next video. Bye.